All right, I think we're recording. It says we're recording. Yeah, this meeting is being recorded, so someone's
The
recording it.
red button's on.
Yeah, exactly. No, it usually tells me this. Oh, I think it's because the note-taking AI thing was anyway. Listen, Alexandra and Jeremy, welcome to the Once Bitten podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time and for so much more, which we'll get into. But yeah, it's great to have you on.
Thank you, Daniel. Like being in your podcast is such an honor, and being with your daughter is a double honor. Thank you.
Daniel, it's always good to to see each other kind of virtually. We've been in person, so this is kind of fun to be on the other side of the pond with both families.
I think the first time we connected, you were asking me the questions. Is that right?
That is true. That is true. So it feels only fair that the interrogation should go the other way.
Exactly. Well, do you want to shill your podcast? Don't let that moment pass.
No, 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 no. We have like an anti-shilling rule on my side. So I'm just gonna learn from the best. So always take notes from the best is what I've learned in business. So
All right, cool. Well, Lauren, over to you. You're the best in the business.
Oh,
First
oh hey.
question.
thank you. What is Paystand? Or what does it do?
Wait, I just thought we were talking about not shilling, and we're going straight into shilling.
Sorry.
I like it. I like it. Go for it,
Why do
Jerry.
I have to do this? No. Yeah, so I guess Paystand for, the Bitcoiners is kind of a quiet giant in the space. A little bit of context, we started the company really out of a genesis for me that was in 2009 during the financial crisis. And I was there at Occupy Wall Street when you saw sort of the corruption of banking. And I was part of an early crew that just wanted to see things better and different. And that's why I went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And a few years after that, what I found was there was this incredible ideology of Bitcoin and the incredible technology of Bitcoin, but the use case wasn't quite consistent or at scale. And so, what we set up to do is kind of be the largest business use case of Bitcoin. And today we are the largest and fastest growing financial network for companies built on Bitcoin. So we use about 1 million businesses operate on our platform to pay each other, to send each other money, and to ultimately make their company more efficient. So we create economic empowerment for them. And our belief is if you create economic empowerment for companies and the economy, you can also give back to the community. So Alex is involved in our foundation, which is paystand.org. And that is a philanthropic effort that's entire goal is to be able to help Bitcoin circular economies around the world grow so we can see the mission continue to spread.
Yeah, excellent. So
Wow.
I've got a follow-up question there, actually. And this has never dawned on me, but I'm not even sure Kaylin would know, and she's almost 20. Um, so Occupy Wall Street, did you hear him say that?
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
No.
Ah, okay. So for all the millennials, well, Gen Z that tune into the Bitcoin, the Once Bitten podcast, how would you explain to somebody that doesn't know what that was, that moment in time?
Yeah, so it was this unique moment in time where I think people realized A, how important banks are or money is to society, and B, when it goes really wrong, how bad that is for society. So in 2008, a number of the largest banks in the US, but then really the world, they basically fell apart. And they fell apart for, let's call it a bit of a Ponzi scheme. The banks were over levered in these commercial loans that they were doing. And the net result was the biggest banks in the US either failed or nearly failed, and the government had to come and bail them out. Now, what was the problem with that? That's really nice because the top rich people, the top 1% in Wall Street, they all got bailed out by taxpayers. And this is part of my personal story, millions of people around the world, especially Americans, they were on the receiving end and they didn't get bailed out because if, say, the bank held a loan for your house and that bank failed, the bank actually repossessed your house. So in my case, my family, there was sort of a tragedy in the family, and my father had passed away, and they held a very small loan, and they were kind of paycheck to paycheck. My parents were very meager growing up. They didn't go to high school or college, and their story was one of many people's stories, which is You grew your wealth in the American dream by buying a house, and so they did that. But unfortunately, they were on sort of the receiving end of this sort of calamity, and they lost their house. So the bank took the loan, kicked them out of their house after 20 years of paying the mortgage. And then they were kind of just left alone. And the government came in and bailed out all the kind of rich or wealthy people and the big corporations, but they left the rest of the people out on the streets. And so the kind of saying then was they bailed out Wall Street, but they did not bail out Main Street. And so Main Street revolted. And that revolt was what was called Occupy Wall Street. So this was a kind of a historic moment. So thousands and thousands of people in each city, major city in the US and around the globe, started protesting, basically down with the banks. So the kind of genesis of the mentality of Bitcoin really started there. So I was in New York and people were throwing rocks at the banks, and rightly so, they were pretty upset. And the outcome of that was this idea that money is the root of our economic system, and if it lets us down or it's corrupt, that's totally unfair to people. And people started waking up. And this was right around the time that Bitcoin was created. And so you actually can look at the Genesis block, and there's a sort of subtle nod to it in the original inscription, because it was this notion that you needed money that is free and fair to have a thriving economy.
So imagine.
I don't know. Sorry, that might have been like too philosophical.
No, definitely not.
That's okay.
I'll show you some pictures afterwards because
Okay.
I think it's important that the younger generation know that went down. And thanks for bringing that up and mentioning that. I've actually had other people on the podcast talk about it, but never mentioned it to Lauren. And I know Eric Kaysen, I think he was in Occupy, John Dennehy, who's out in El Salvador now with Mi Prima. Another guy that was down there protesting. All right, so Alexandra, we should move across to you. Do you have a specific question for Alexandra?
Oh, I was not prepared for this.
Well, I thought you can ask.
Yeah. Hold on, let me get all the words in order. How is Caitlin doing? How is she doing her job?
My gosh, this is such an inspirational question. So Caitlin is doing great, bringing someone that is young to a group of interns that are younger. We have around 17 kids here. I mean, when I said kids are young college students, that they don't know anything about Bitcoin, but they want to do great projects. So Caitlin came being that person in that group that knows about Bitcoin, that is ready to do the program to Digital Nest. And I asked her, she's been preparing everything, the material, what she's going to do. And one day I tell Caitlin, I need to go to this event over the hill, and do you want to join me? She's like, yes, of course. She's always smiling, always great. And I take her, I'm totally informal. When I open the door of the event, is 2,000 people, 2,000 women, that I'm going to be one of the MCs. And I look at Caitlin and I'm like, what is this? Everybody is in galas. And she held my hand and she said, I am not even a guest. And I said, just take Jeremy Almond's thing. She's like, okay, I love it. I'm going to be Jeremy Almond. I love this. She interacted with everybody. She cheered me up. Thanks to her being with me, I was able to feel secure, to do my job, and to find more people. Um, that was kind of like a great moment, an aha moment, to see how the young generation is so self-confident, so curious, open to be themselves. And I love that from her. Then the next week, she's ready to go to do her first program course at Digital Nest. And I asked her, are you ready? And she's like, oh, I got it. Of course, I got it. And I'm like, I'm going to bring you there. I'm going to drive you there. I'm going to introduce you to everybody. I want to make sure that you are fine. And she's like, I'm going to take an Uber. I'm totally fine. So I said, I insist. And she's like, okay, Alex, you are nice. So we go there. I introduce her to everybody. Everybody already know her. Everybody was expecting her. And so far, I hear that everything that she's been deploying there about Bitcoin, that they were kind of like skeptical, is being into a very success moment. Today, we're going to have more than 20 young people coming to our offices to have their certification, their graduations, about knowing what is Bitcoin, what is inflation, why money matters, and everything was delivered by a young girl that is not even 20, who is an inspiration for me, for the company, and now for other people. This is what can I tell you that Caitlin is doing here. It's amazing.
Amazing.
Wait,
And
can I brag about like Caitlin's actually one of the cool things that she's just successfully done. So a little bit like rewind to my backstory. So my family kind of grew up. My mom came from her side of the family came from Mexico right before I was born. So she was an immigrant refugee. And then my dad was like a blue collar construction worker. So he never went to high school or college. He like swung a hammer. And so we grew up in a rough neighborhood, let's call it. And so like I personally got involved in tech because I got part of an sort of special program that gave me access to education, and then that access to education gave me access to technology, and then kind of was my ticket out, so to speak. Um, and so there's a really cool program that Caitlin's involved with that she's the liaison for called Digital Nest. And Digital Nest is like the program that helps kids that were like me. So they go into areas all over the U.S. and help, kids that are generally like migrant, children of migrants who are first generation in the U.S. that are sort of the American dream, but they don't have access. And so the idea is to be able to give kids that are, your guys' age, access to a computer, access to some technology training, and maybe a head start so they could go to college. So it's a little bit of me over again. So my heart is just I love this program, and we've been supporting them for a while on paystand.org, and but paystand.org, our entire goal is to drive financial inclusion through Bitcoin, and we've been trying to slowly orange pill this group. And they are the natural group, and we've done so much work all over the world on helping communities like that use more Bitcoin. And an annoying thing to me a little bit is in America, that's not happening as much. It's happening in El Salvador, it's happening, in Guatemala, it's happening in places in Africa. But I want it to happen in our backyard too. And so we've been kind of slowly pushing to like, this is a great community that actually really should use the tools of the sort of powerful catalyst for financial change. And so the thing I'm really excited about is two areas that are like so near and dear to my heart. The story of these kids that are the American dream, and then the thing that is the economic empowerment for them to grow. It put together, and it's really Caitlin who's the one that's connected the dots. So that to me, that's really, really special that she's doing that.
Yesterday, I have a, a call from United Way. You guys probably know about them. And I share what Caitlin did through the Digital Nest. And they were immediately saying, can we deliver this to other countries through us? And I was like, absolutely, let's do this. So is just to finish that, is great to see that is the young people who is doing the work, and they believe easier, and they are, as I mentioned before, very curious and open, and having her as an inspiration not only for the nest but for our interns is really what we need. We need more Kaylans, right? More young people that is moving this forward. So very proud of having her here.
well, thank you. And just for context, Caitlin,
say, yeah.
Caitlin is Lauren's big sister.
Yeah.
Do we need more Caitlins?
Oh,
Well, right, okay. So that's just the sister's point of
I'm
view.
just joking, guys.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
But yeah, and huge thank you to you both for offering her this opportunity. I can't remember where the brainchild for all of this came from. Alexandra, I think it was you that reached out, and we talked about internships. After seeing you in Oslo and seeing you in Madeira, we saw the pair of you in Oslo. Jeremy, I don't think we met in Madeira. Were you there?
I was busy surfing, buddy, but yes, I was there.
You were okay. But it was great to see you in Oslo at the Freedom Forum. Even then, it was just too short. But when Alexandra told me about the projects that you were backing in Madeira, the first thing I said, well, I can hook you up with people across this side of the pond in Europe because the economies, the growing Bitcoin economies, circular economies, they're tough to find sometimes. And I just tried to sit down and think of different people I could put your way. And I think I put you in touch with a few football projects. I know you're a big football fan, Alexandra. Although the Lionesses are the champions of the world, right? So yeah, well, thank you for coming up with the idea and it's having her to spend this 2 months in her summer intern. I can't imagine the experience she's going to take back to her second year at university is going to be very interesting to see.
And the memories, the memories she's making.
Yeah, that's going to be, because already in so she's studying, what is it, political science and international relations. And her first essay, did she tell you this, guys? The title of her first essay? You should ask her about this. The title of her first essay that she was assigned week 1 at university was "How is money created in the UK banking system?"
Ooh.
What? I didn't know that.
Yes.
I mean, and you are inspiring me to tell you about Micaela. My daughter is 14 years old, and her first essay at the school, she said, I wanted to write about why Bitcoin. Do you remember the title of the essay?
Yeah, why Bitcoin is the only crypto that matters. Basically, everything else is a shitcoin was kind of her essay.
Right? And she was trying to, she write it down and she showed it to us and I read it and I'm like, this is really cool. That was ChatGPT. And she's like, no, it was me. And I'm like, really? And she mentioned in her reading a thing about what Trump is doing, what policymaker, what is part of the Constitution, what is part of the values, economic empowerment, what she learns in Madeira. And the teacher goes and is totally against the paper, right? Like, again, destroyed her. Like, what are you doing? And she comes and is like, well, this is what I think, and I want to sustain that. And we were all super proud of her with that paper. And I sent it to a woman in Bitcoin in Las Vegas. And they said, oh, this is really cool. And I'm like, I'm very proud that more young women are able, and she's just 14 years old, right? And she goes and they said, can we have her as a speaker? And I come back to her and she's like, Mommy, I don't know if I'm going to be able to speak. This is the first time that I'm speaking. I'm like, no, you have to be proud. We need more girls, more women, more young people that are able to go speak what they believe in. So she went speak and many, many, many people came to me saying like, thank you. You guys are inspiring us to take this into middle schools. You guys are inspiring us to take this into more young people. So going back to the story of her first paper, there are many first papers that need to be sang, right? And it's with their voices, with your voice, Lauren. Like, don't stop talking about what you believe, right?
Yeah.
Yes, totally. So can you give us a little insight into some of the projects that you guys have found and helped in any way that you can? Obviously, funding is one big help, but there's more than one way to help a project. Any particular favorites? Firstly, how many projects? Do you even have that metric off the top of your head?
Yeah, we have around 24 NGOs that we are supporting. I would like to talk about one of my favorite one that is Woman in Bitcoin, and I would like Jeremy for you to talk about the indigenous because the inspiration of that one down in Colombia is really cool. And very quickly about Woman in Bitcoin, that is how I met you, Daniel, right? It was through Claire. I saw Claire in that brunch, and she is so genuine and so authentic that really she inspired me to talk to her. That was 2 years ago, and I was kind of like just starting to learn about why Bitcoin is not a cryptocurrency, like learning really. I was learning through the company, through Jeremy, but never with a group of women, right? And we are there, and I talk to her, and I talk to Christina, and I talk to to Rachel. And then I get together with Rachel, and she mentions that she has her Woman in Bitcoin initiative, and I ask her, can I be part of that? And slowly we become getting more women together before any Bitcoin conference to talk about what we believe. It doesn't need to be the technical aspect, the political aspect only, or whatever. It's whatever we feel comfortable to talk about that. And so far, right now, with the support of Claire, Christina, Rachel, many other women, of course, in many countries, we have so far supported around 12 women in brunch events that sit together to talk, to empower women to become more leaders and don't be afraid about using it, saving money, or just asking questions about that. This is one of my favorite programs so far, and it's being successful. And every time that the Confederation of Women, we met together to say what is next, and what is next is in El Salvador. We are all very excited to see how we bring different cultures together, right? Like Claire is in UK, Rachel is in Germany, I'm here, the other one is in Africa. And how can we all get together to uplift and empower more the economical empowerment and the financial inclusion that we are all looking forward? So that's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, that's amazing. And for your feedback in Prague this year, which is the brunch, I think I believe that you helped fund for some coffees and pastries and to help secure the event and whatever else. 75 women showed up, and that was during like the industry day of BTC Prague. And again, I remember last year. The last year was organized by Rachel Gaia with Les Femmes Orange. And we met Isabella at breakfast, Isabella Santos. We saw her at breakfast and we're like, Isabella, are you going along to the ladies' brunch thing today? She's like, what? I didn't know there was one. So oh yeah, you have to go. They've got like one of the best spots in Prague, one of the best restaurants secured. So she went along, and then I saw her 4 or 5 hours later at the event, and she came up and she said she was at the event crying because the ladies on the stage were talking about motherhood and how Bitcoin just perfectly connects with motherhood and freeing the wife to be a wife and two a mother. If you've got financial freedom and the backing of Bitcoin, you can concentrate on being a family. You don't need both parents. It's not having the baby and giving it up at 6 months of age to a carer so both parents can go back out just to survive in this inflationary fiat nightmare. And that's the kind of, so even as a hardcore Bitcoiner, that touched her. So it's not like, yeah, you're right. They're going and just talking about Bitcoin like geeky men do. They talk about all the things, which is amazing. So yeah, Jeremy, what's one of the projects then? It was the Colombia one. Is that the one you wanted to talk about?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that came to mind just now, like the overused but like remains appropriate statement: fix the money, fix the world. It's not just fix the money. It's what does the outcome become, and it's a better world is why we believe in it so much. And so I think you see that in what you guys are describing, which is more holistic life. And I think, I don't know, a lot of Bitcoiners go through this journey where they get excited about it. They think, they see that it's this opportunity for transformation in the world, and then they want to tell everybody about it. And then I don't know if this happened to you, Daniel, but like at some point when you start telling everybody about it and not everybody listens, it's a little bit discouraging. And I don't know. I remember like maybe a decade ago or so, there was like a point where I was just like, why don't people get this? And at least for me in that process, what I've learned over time is one of the ways that really I think creates like the catalyst for people to really go down the rabbit hole is they need to see it and use it and touch it. And so you can have these philosophical arguments, but until somebody sees it and uses it and touches it, it's hard for people to really like absorb it. And so one of the things I've kind of done over time, and it's why it's in a way why we support all these circular economies, is oftentimes like I'll just run into people and I'll be like, look how easy it is to set up a non-custodial wallet in like 10 seconds, and then let me just send you some tiny amount, right? And then it creates curiosity. And so me and other people tend to do this. And so anyways, we were sitting at this event that was not a Bitcoin event. It was kind of like a event for really social inclusion, and there was a bunch of like philanthropists there, kind of movie stars or whatever, and they invited this indigenous community that was from South America, kind of like picture Amazonians. To the event, because the event was sort of about healing the planet and making sure you were good stewards. And I guess there was some water project that was kind of destroying the community. And so these indigenous people were there, and they brought them up to talk, but then they kind of just left them there. And we were sitting at lunch, Alex and we were with a bunch of people, and I just noticed that they were all sitting alone. And I was like, I'm super curious. I want to go talk to these people. So we just walk over and we kind of move from who we were with, and we're like, let's go hang out with these folks. And we start just conversing with them. And and I was like, like, what brings you here? And they said, well, our community is completely up in the mountains, super far away from kind of like what you would consider as normal society. And we kind of have everything we want. It's been there for thousands of years. And I was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. And I said, well, why are you here then? In the middle of a city talking with all these kind of rich people or whatever. And they go, well, like, we need to check in every once in a while. The first one is like, if you guys do something in some development project that blows up our community, like that's not good. So that's why we're here. So the kind of head of the community, I'm like, that makes sense. And I'm like, well, what else goes on? And he goes, well, the other thing is like, we have this problem with your money. And I said, oh, I know a little bit about that. Tell me more about that. And he goes, well, your entire society runs on money. And I'm like, yeah, also deeper than you think. And he goes, and that's a problem for us. And I go, okay, what do you mean? He goes, well, we're like this barter society. We've been that way for thousands of years. And everything is quite good until we actually have to go and interact with you guys. Because like, we have great medicine that's natural and blah, blah, blah. But like, if something really, really disastrous happens, we do need to like, send people 8 hours down the mountains to the hospital. And to do that, we need to sort out, transportation and hospital fees. And, like we have no way to interact with you guys. And so I said, well, what do you guys do? And he said, well, like literally, every couple of months we'll send people down to the cities and sell crafts and that sort of thing. And they can, take that weird paper that you guys have and we put it under the mattress, almost like insurance. The chiefs literally like they hold it all until something's required for these villages. It's quite wild. And then he says, but this is like not good. And, like we don't like how your society all runs on money and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. So I started talking to them about Bitcoin and like, these terms like, hey, it's pure money. It's like the barter system, blah, 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 blah. It was originally a peer-to-peer like exchange. And I could see his like eyes kind of start glazing back and I go, okay, this isn't working. Strike out again. Don't go there. And so I was like, no. I was like, hey, do you guys have a phone? And because I wasn't sure, these guys are really remote. And he goes, yeah. The government gave us phones because they put like cell towers like in our jungles or whatever because they're like high up. And I said, oh, cool. So I said, okay, like let me try something. So I onboard them with the self-custody wallet. And he goes, here. And I just give him some Bitcoin and I don't think anything of it. And it's like one of, a bunch of interactions I do. And I go about, my day and we leave. And like a year later, they start texting Alex. And they're like, this stuff is so cool. Like, blah, blah, blah. How do we get more? Blah, 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 blah. We're starting to use it. And we were like, what? Like, we just left them to go back to their villages in the middle of, the jungle or whatever. And so they asked us, they're like, hey, can we get like a little bit of a crash course. And so we brought them to an event that sort of snowballed. So we sent them to Peru. So this was in the kind of Andes near Colombia, and we started getting indigenous villagers that hadn't seen each other. They had historical roots, but hadn't seen each other in thousands of years. They start bartering back and forth. Then all of the chief villagers start using it. And the next thing you know, there's like dozens and dozens of villages, and I was like, and these are very like off the radar places. So I was like, well, how many people is this? And they're like, oh yeah, like hundreds and hundreds per village. And I started doing the math, and I'm like, wait, you have thousands and thousands of people using this completely offline in your villages, like non-connected to society. They're like, yeah, you sent us pure money, so we just figured it was easier. And it's just gone crazy.
Pure money. This is the word that they use when we were, because they kind of do an interview to us to see if we are really genuine and we work in our values.
I'm not sure what's happened to Alex's sound. You can't really hear Alex at the moment. Yeah, almost nothing.
Now, let's see.
That's better. Yeah.
Okay,
we got
better.
you. Yeah.
All right. So they kind of do an interview in their language to us, but to me, and they want to know what are our values, what are the values of Bitcoin, and they said this is pure value, pure. They use it 3 times, and their mammoth, who is kind of like the chief, the high priest, looked at them and said, "Yes, this is approved." And now, like in a couple of weeks, my first Bitcoin, who we support, is going to Tras La Perla, another foundation, and Paystand.org to introduce Bitcoin to another 70 community leaders. So this is how powerful it is. So
Wow.
Yeah, and I think a couple cool shout outs, because like how does the communities kind of work together? Like this all builds, like we're all part of a movement. So it happened the first time this happened, we went out there and I was like, whoa, this is like intense. Like it might be written in a history book. I don't want to screw this up. They haven't literally used money in thousands of years. So we brought our friends like Mike Peterson from Bitcoin Beach and Vale from Motive, who works with a lot of like indigenous communities. So a little bit to like really help with the community leaders, like how does this get done in practice. So I think that's really cool because we're all part of something very special. And then I think the other thing that's really cool is my first Bitcoin's going out there, which we love. John, we're quite involved with what they do, and I think they're a very, very good case study on just their open source education is a lot of times the front lines for a lot of this grassroots efforts. And so oftentimes right after your first orange pilling moment, you go, well, now I need to learn about what this thing is. It's crazy. Jeremy just, put me up on a self-custody wallet and the thing's working. Like, now what? And so I think my first Bitcoin is like, an incredible kind of tool for change for a lot of these like communities trying to figure out now what, how do we educate more people? So.
it's basically, it's a lot of inspiration. They were the first ones doing a great job on education for young people that is spreading the voice, and now many other countries are taking that and getting to different levels. Last week we were talking to another organization that is taking the program from My First Bitcoin and their own research into the vertical of how to get Bitcoin education into tourism, young people, which means that they are not only teaching Bitcoin, which is great, but the blockchain, the why, the meaning, all the aspects that are very cool in Bitcoin. But how can you, while you are working on a restaurant or while you are working on a hotel, can really use it in that vertical? And this is a very good project also that is right now down in Colombia and is going to Peru, working also with Motive to keep working more on how to use Bitcoin in a great vertical that is an economical empowerment, not only for the society, but also for the country, that is the tourism. So that is another great program. And I want to mention something.
And we're going to go there's like, Daniel's probably got other things on his mind. There's like 40 projects.
Yeah, but this one is cool.
One
Just
more,
let
one
me
more.
say
Come
this
on.
one.
I love the jungle
One
one.
more.
I love the jungle one.
I like this. Like, listen, we are in a corporate world, right? So this is a technology company, it's blockchain, it's blah, 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 all that Jeremy just explained that I love. But it's sometimes difficult to let our employees, our staff, to know what we do. I mean, I have to be honest, Jeremy, right? Like, come on. So we started through the foundation to take our own staff to be volunteers of the foundation in the grassroots projects. And this
Excellent.
year, we are taking them to El Salvador and to Peru, where they need to do stuff that is really cool, right? They need to work directly with the indigenous. They need to work with the woman. They need to pick up the garbage. They need to help the training on Bitcoin. And that is the best way to have really their hearts into our mission and to seem farther than the daily job that sometimes can be tedious, sometimes can be inspirational, sometimes could be too challenging, back into what we are really doing here. And I'm saying this because that was Jeremy's vision probably a year and a half ago, like how can we get our employees to believe? And I contact you, Daniel, and I ask you, what are your thoughts on that? And you told me, Alex, do this, do that. And nowadays, I will say, Jeremy, that like our staff really believe in what we are doing, and they are all connected. And this year, we have to have a waiting list of people because we couldn't get everybody down to Peru and to El Salvador to experience that. So this is
That's
also a
awesome.
very good program, right?
Right. Are you listening, Michael Saylor? Because I guarantee you, nobody at MicroStrategy, well, not nobody, but very few people, very few of his staff would be even orange pilled or even really truly understand what Bitcoin is. And they'll just be sitting there doing their day-to-day job, smiling and dialing, trying to get more customers in on their, the commercial software platform sales.
Yeah.
If you're a Bitcoin company owner, and I'm not talking about Bitcoin treasury companies, that's a whole crock of shit. But if you're a company that is looking after your employees and truly taking your fiduciary duty very, very seriously and stacking Bitcoin with a little bit of profit that you might be taking each month, it is up to you then to educate your staff. And a big shout out to Hashley Giles over here in the UK, who runs a consultancy business. He's done that with his staff, and he keeps a spreadsheet up of the what their pension fund might be worth versus if they'd have stacked X amount of Bitcoin each month with a little bit of their salary. So there needs to be more of that initiative for sure. Lauren, sorry, we've just been blabbering. Did you have any more questions, or were you? Yeah, yeah. The jungle story is great. Right, me and Lauren want to come to the jungle and come and meet some of the chieftains and have a
Yes.
chat. And I was wondering actually because there's a bunch of Bitcoiners, almost I'd say half the Bitcoiners I meet, they always ask me in kind of like hushed tones, have you ever done any plant-based medicines? I'm like, well, no, I haven't, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it. So there's probably a business here in some of these Amazonian tribes where they can earn some sats by inviting Bitcoiners in for some shamanic kind of retreat
I
experience.
promise. Yeah, that is they're gonna be the next steps.
Yeah, as a financially regulated entity, what I will say is what you do with your Bitcoin in your own time is your own choices, which is I'm a believer in self-sovereignty, but I'm also publicly on record.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Okay. So are you guys, I mean, so I'm now thinking more practically for people listening to this that might be interested in, hooking up with Paystand and getting their business set up. How does it work? Could you lead us through an example, like existing clients? You don't have to use names, obviously, but existing clients. How does Paystand work for them, and how could somebody interact with Paystand if they were listening?
Yeah, so Paystand's kind of like the practical bridge to, let's call it, normie companies. So normal companies need to operate to be able to pay bills and get their revenue, right? Like it's kind of the lifeblood of their business. And so we have kind of the practical tools for the finance teams to use basically their ability to pay things. So imagine if you have a corporate card. So most Bitcoiners know like a Gemini card or a Coinbase card, which you might use yourself to be able to pay stuff and stack sats. In Paystand's case, we have the only corporate card that does that. So the corporate card is, hey, in Paystand's case, we have 400 and something employees. They all need to be able to travel, to go to events, to be able to work with partners, to pay marketing. And so we give them a card to be able to do that. And then the card, what's unique about the card is you can pay your bills, you can pay your expenses, and then you stack sats, so the loyalty points are in sats. And then the other thing is when you pay somebody on our network, instead of going through Visa or MasterCard, where it's really expensive and it costs the business money, we consider that a tax. It goes through our network, which runs on chain on the Bitcoin network. And so that means that the money moves instead of in 5 days, it'll move at the speed of light. Instead of it being really manual, it's super automated because Bitcoin is programmable money. And then it moves without cost. And that cost issue is a big thing because if you're a company and if you're a company and let's say you're I don't know, a $10 million company, you might be paying $500,000 in fees to Visa or MasterCard or the banks just to operate your business. And that's like tax. Like, so we want to be able to put that money back to the business so they can hire more people because we believe using Bitcoin is actually valuable. It's not just storing it, but actually using it. And so if the company can save money and not pay Visa and MasterCard or the banks, everyone wins except for those guys, and we're fine with that. And so the company becomes more successful.
What kind of could you give us an example of like what kind of sectors are using Paystand?
Yeah, so we're like we work across the world. So we have about 1,000 plus large enterprise clients. So think about the public companies. We have about 1 million businesses that pay on the platform. So people say no one uses Bitcoin like in the real world, and we kind of laugh and say actually it's quite the opposite because when technology is magic, it kind of disappears. And so when you walk in your Uber, you just it magically happens, and then you leave and you don't exchange money anymore. And that's how it works with us. So, millions of businesses will use that card to pay on us. Thousands of large companies will use it. Could be anything from a mining manufacturing company in the Bitcoin space to, a public tech company to a global supply chain company that doesn't want to pay, FX fees. So all of them will use us to be able to move their money really efficiently. We say, we help real world companies solve real world problems with real world use cases of Bitcoin. So
How have the companies found you? Because this is a niche offering, right? It gives me hope that there's a lot more sleeper Bitcoiners in fiat companies out there that might bring this to the attention of their like boardroom, for example.
yeah, I think one of the I don't know if it was the right or wrong approach, but we started the company I think a lot earlier than maybe the current cohort of companies that people hear about. And because we really wanted to focus on being a use case and proving that money is not just a store of value, but a medium of exchange, for years and years, that was very complicated because of regulation. And so we took the approach instead of talking to a company or a CFO about Bitcoin, they might not have been ready for that. So for many years, we stopped using the words in the first part of the conversation. Instead, we'd actually used the end result. We'd say, hey, wouldn't it be good if you could move money like instantly at the speed of light? Because time is money. And wouldn't it be money good if you were able to get that money faster so you could run your business faster? And wouldn't it be good if you could, sort of lower all your costs and not pay all these unfair fees? Wouldn't it be good if your money was sovereign and you owned it and there wasn't a middleman? Like, so we would use all of the words that a Bitcoiner would use, and then we would just quietly kind of, go, would that be worth it to you? And they'd say, yeah, I totally want that. Screw Visa or screw the banks or screw the taxes, right? So you start to get them really riled up. They just didn't know they were being orange pilled. So for years, we actually said all of the things that make Bitcoin so unique and special. We just didn't tell them the thing that was the scary word for them. And now today, we're quite a big scaled company, and I think that was our secret of success was talking about the value and how it would change and affect and improve their lives. And eventually they become the ideologues we are too. But start with how it'll change their life, and then they'll become curious. So
Excellent. So you've got a way to find businesses and to completely convince them. But then what about the project side of things, Alexandra? How do you find the projects? Because they don't come flooding, right? Obviously the Amazonian chieftains was an outlier.
Well, that's a great question because we travel a lot all the time, and just going with our phones, which is something that I learned from Jeremy, and saying, talking a little bit about, do you use Bitcoin? And then they say no. And we explain in a very easy way why it's so easy to change money. I am in United States, you are in Costa Rica, and you're here. Do you want to try it? It sparks curiosity on them, right? And then they are like, but I have a business, but I have a community. A beautiful example of that is we were in a place called La Comuna 13 in Medellin. Medellin is this big place where all narco trafficking, for you, Lauren, was happening a long time ago. Pablo Escobar, like huge narco traffic problems were there, and I was there. I am from Colombia. So when I'm there, I take Jeremy to see the place, La Comuna 13, which was a scary place, guys. Like, was full of gangs. No one could go to that place. And then my family said, you have to go to La Comuna 13. And I'm like, really? And we go there, and it's totally the most amazing place, full of culture, music, art. It's like hilarious. It's like being in France in a beautiful place full of coffees, restaurant, colors, joy, etc., etc. And we walk there, and I am in love with one jacket, and I ask them, "Do you guys get Bitcoin?" And they're like, so I am like, let me explain to you very quickly. This is it. Do you want to? Let me help you to open that. They opened their wallet, we pay in Bitcoin, we got more things, and then they WhatsApp me and say, like, this is really cool. How can we train all the small businesses here to use Bitcoin? Because right now that place is full of tourists that are visiting, because of course Medellin is a hot place for the history with the narco traffic thing. Right now is one of the best cities in the world in terms of technology, culture, etc., etc. And we are leading a new project. So we connect my first Bitcoin, we connect the NGO that we work with, and then they can do the work. So it's amazing to see how you can be an ambassador, and then the need is there. It's just everybody could be a Bitcoiner. Eventually, everybody's going to be a Bitcoiner. It's just that they just don't know, right?
Mhm.
This is number one. And the number two things is, I will say, the partnerships, Jeremy.
yeah, and I think one of the things I would say with that on that is, how does like my day job, I work in, corporate America with big finance and that sort of thing. Like, where do these touch? And I think it might be non-obvious that the Bitcoin community is quite a big tent. But it also, like, the adoption on each side actually helps each other. So, most of my day job, Alex gets to talk about all these beautiful stories that you guys could like hear for hours. But most of the time, I'm like busy talking to bankers, to Wall Street people, to big corporations. And, we're sitting literally in Silicon Valley right now, which is kind of the heart of our company. And even in like the heart of technology, um, there is massive, even today, skepticism in Bitcoin. They might say, oh, stable coins or blockchain, but like Bitcoin, ooh. And so like one of the things I started doing over time was realize, like, um, people needed to see that it was real. Like, number go up might spark curiosity for some people, but a lot of people just really didn't feel like there was a real use case. So one of the things that we would do is, we partner with, on our normal company, with companies like Oracle and Microsoft and Sage and Salesforce and kind of big companies like that. And that's oftentimes how we'll get, customers. And we've been talking to folks like that, and I said, hey, you guys need to come and just see it. You're so skeptical, but let me take you to places where in the middle of nowhere, it's more advanced than Silicon Valley. And they would look at me like, are you crazy? And I'd say, no, no, no. Like, you guys think that fintech is like a big thing, but actually, you're just like a pretty UI on top of banks, and they would get very offended by that. And I'd go, well, come see. And so I started doing kind of the opposite of the fellowship that she's talking about with our employees. I started doing, like, I don't know what to describe it, like pilgrimages, where I started bringing like CEOs down to these places, CEOs of banks, board members, VCs, and they'd be very nervous, but we take them. So we did a trip somewhat recently where we took a bunch of VCs, a bunch of investors, CEOs down to El Zonte, and I think seeing you walk through and be able to immediately pay your taxes instantly, go to a small town where you can buy your pupusas, buy your chicken, like um these things, and then we would do these cases where we'd like talk to the business owners that are small businesses like she just described, and they would go like, what are you doing when the volatility is so high? Like, how do you deal with that? And the pupuseria lady would just be like, yeah, volatility, but now I've been making pupusas like for 5 years with this, and I own a pupusa empire, so volatility on the way up's been fine with us. I understand inflation and hedging more better than you do, like, so it's like a complete mind shift. And so those two communities, you would be surprised at how much they build on each other.
That's
I
awesome.
remember that.
Right. Lauren, did you want to hang around or did you want to?
I think I am gonna skedaddle now, but
Okay.
thank you for
She just
really
wants to know how our
interesting.
sister's doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, I want
Yeah. You asked about Caitlin an hour and 15 minutes ago.
I mean, so I'm glad I stayed for the stories, but I think I'm gonna go now. But yeah, thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Awesome. Bye, Lauren.
I hope to see you here soon.
Bye.
Yes, for sure. That would be great. Yeah, we'll send Sophia through next, and then Lauren and Samuel, they can come over when they're a little bit older, and
Yes.
it'll be awesome.
Keep
Yeah, for them.
keep making a tribe, Daniel. Just keep,
Yeah, I would
By
love
the
for
way,
them.
this is Daniel an inspiration to us, like seeing you and your family on events and all together and supporting the young and supporting kids. This is something literally amazing. I do remember that because you were my inspiration, I got two of my three kids to down to El Salvador to one of our executive and volunteer programs, and one of the people asked me, "Why are you bringing your kids? Isn't that weird?" Like, like, eh. And I was like, totally the opposite. Like, it's an experience to them. They get to live this together. They are gonna become ambassadors. That was a long time ago, and right now, it's true. Like other part of our staff, they are like, hey, I really, really would love to bring my entire family to the next trip. How can I do that? This is incredible. So what you guys do is a real inspiration to know that this is a family thing, right?
Yeah, it totally is, and thank you for saying that. That's very humbling. It was a pretty lonely place to be for a family, a Bitcoin conference in the first couple that we went to. But then people catch on and they're like, well, I'm going to bring my wife and kids to the next one. And by the time we got around to Madeira, that they did such a great job, Andre and the guys putting that together. With they even had a little kids tent where the kids were interviewing Bitcoiners up on the stage. They had Giacomo Zucco up on the stage answering questions, and Jack Mallers as well. And it was just so great to see because and invariably with the younger kids, the parents would have to be with the younger kids, and the younger kids went, well, I want to be in that tent where they've got all the games going on. They're all Bitcoin educational games, and then you've got these guys up. I remember parents telling me, like, I had to come in this tent because they wanted to come, and there's Giacomo on stage. Like, this is like, it's giving me goosebumps. This is amazing. And now you go to the conferences, there's way more families. We were just in Prague, and there was a lot of families that turned up there, and a lot of first timers as well, that had never been to a Bitcoin meetup, had never been to a conference. So it's happening. It's grassroots stuff, and it's really great to see. And I just hope more conference organizers take a leaf out of Free Madeira's book and just give the kids a space. And when I say kids, anything from 5 to 20, whatever, give them a space. put the responsibility on them to curate a program, have them make the reach out, literally wait on the side of the stage and wait for one of the speakers to come off and just say, would you come to, they're going to say yes every time. Every single time they're going to say yes. And it makes it such a special moment for all of the conferences. So what to try and start wrapping it up, I guess, would be to ask you a practical question on the business side and on the foundation side. So we'll start with you, Alexandra. How can people apply if they've been listening, if they're running some kind of project or they've got something in mind to start a Bitcoin communal economy? How can they reach out and apply? Is there minimum requirements or is it just a phone call? Just talk us through it.
Well, it's not that complicated. We just finished the second allocation for the year. So the next year round starts in November. So usually people just go by our website, paystand.org, and there is a form there that has a couple of questions. If they want to reach out to me, I am always very happy or one of our team to talk to them, to explain to them why it's important, how we work. But in general, Alexandra at paystand.org is my email. But if you just go by paystand.org, they can see all that we are doing, who we are supporting. The grants are has different average depending on the NGO that is working with us. Something that is important is that some of the grants we do it in Bitcoin, but we are also, of course, open to do that in fiat. They need to be supporting circular economies, Bitcoin adoption in underrepresented communities. It doesn't matter if it's to women, to men, to kids, to small businesses, or through, like the goal is the goal to advance and accelerate the use of Bitcoin and give more financial inclusion to underrepresented communities. And it's very easy after that. Our committee get together and depending on the budget, we guide the NGO to put a better scope of work, or we help them. And we notice that some NGOs not only need the grants, which is of course amazing for them to receive some money, but we support them also with different programs, with the Woman Brunch, for example. If they need some support to bring more women, we support them with programs as mentors. So if they need mentors, we do that. If they need internships that can come and work with our own team, that's another thing that we do. If they need a special consultant to work on their marketing, so we are able to support with that. So we want to make sure that this is a relationship of trust, and we want to meet with their needs. It's not that we are imposing anything. It's that we want to meet with their needs. And when we understand their needs, it becomes more like a friendship. What do you need that we can support? What is the scope of work? And something that we ask in return is, let's make sure that we have a conversation like a monthly, by monthly, or maybe once every semester, a conversation, and send us reports that your outcomes are your vision. So tell us how was the outcome that you have with the grant that we sent. We do a max of 3-year program because we want to make sure that the NGO keep growing itself and look for another allocation of sources, not only rely on us, but rely on the great work that they are doing. So it's easy, it's simple, we are super, super approachable, and we hope to support more NGOs next year for sure.
Amazing. And Jeremy, on the business side of things, for all of the Bitcoiners listening to this right now that are that Bitcoiner within the business and want, they understand the to save this business, like we talked about, like the fiduciary duty of looking after that business and making sure it's still going to be around in 5 to 15 to 25 years time. The only way that they are going to guarantee that is if there is Bitcoin getting stacked on that balance sheet, or if they start cutting the costs that like you explained, by using Paystand. How can they effectively approach you guys to be able to use you guys and your stories and success stories to then take to the boardroom?
Yeah. So simply go to paystand.com, and we have a family of companies that we support, so we can route them to the right teams, whether it's our payables and AP and expense, the corporate card, or they want to use us to receive revenue or to do capital allocations or treasury. These are all services we support. So go to paystand.com. I'm also fairly easy to get a hold of. I'm on Twitter, X at Jeremy Almond. And then if you're trying to slowly orange pill your boss, Daniel talked about it at the beginning. I'd asked him for advice. I don't know, a year, 2 years ago, because I started doing a podcast that wasn't really aimed at Bitcoiners, but was actually aimed at kind of normie business people to start understanding the use cases and the language. And that's called Redefined. And you can go to YouTube to go to Redefined. And that's really like to see focused on business people, what are business use cases? Because oftentimes that's the first way they like understand it. Oh, I can save money. I can save FX fees. I can save, I can be able to move my goods and services sooner. I can, help my mining business operate cheaper, or I can access capital better, or I need to learn about treasury. Like all of these are kind of things that we'll focus on for the business audience. And so that's at Redefined on YouTube and Spotify and those sorts of places. But yeah, I think we at Paystand, maybe to wrap up, our view is, even if you're not a customer of us, what we hope we can we did this for a long time quietly, and maybe we're starting to talk about it a little bit more now, is show that like there can be realignment of incentives for capital companies to then go back and give back to the community as well. And so if nothing else, we hope we can be a little bit of like a good neighbor in the area. For too long, companies, especially financial service companies, just they existed to amass wealth and sort of a winner take all game. And so what we wanted to show and prove was Bitcoin is about incentive alignment. It's about sort of creating more access. And so shouldn't the companies represent that too? And so we hope even if somebody's not a customer of ours, they can take this mentality back to their company, their job, their work, that their work has meaning and value, and then those who are blessed should be a blessing to others. And so hopefully other companies, follow the model that we're doing with Paystand and paystand.org.
Yeah, I hope so too. So well done. Excellent work. Really enjoyed this conversation, having you both on. But there's one final question for you to tackle. And you'll have to argue over who goes first.
Okay,
that's not hard for us to do that.
Okay, so if you had one last orange pill left to give to somebody, who would you give it to and why?
Oh my gosh.
Ouch, that was hard, Daniel. One last?
One.
And I can reach out to anybody in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Can I be super honest?
Yep.
I will go to the Pope, to the Catholic Pope, and orange peel him. There is so much in that community that is changing, that has hope, that reach out to people in many different ways, from donations to power to influence to spiritual direction, that I would love to be able to reach out to him and say the same principles. It's just for financial inclusion, and you have to be part of this.
Love it. Well, the next pope that gets chosen, there might be orange smoke that comes out the top of the Vatican.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Daniel wanted me to argue, but like that's hard to beat. So I think what I would say is one of the most fundamental things to me is Bitcoin is hope, and so I think it's hard to argue with that answer because what I've seen is the people that drove the Bitcoin adoption the most were on the front lines, whether it's Michael Petersons of the world or other people that are kind of quiet about it, because ultimately what they're doing is delivering hope. And that's the outcome Bitcoin brings. So, whether it's the Pope or anybody else that's on the mission field that is sort of driving life change, I think Bitcoin is the tool to do that. And so, orange smoke it is.
Yeah, love it.
Daniel, you know everybody.
Yes, yeah, I don't know the Pope just
It
yet.
happened.
I like the ambition. He said, "I don't know the Pope just yet."
Just yet. Okay, soon
So,
enough, it's gonna happen.
what's will you be at any events? Will people be able to run into you and see you in real life? Have you got anything coming up? Anything planned? And then we'll end it there.
Yeah, we have many events. The next one we are gonna be in Bitcoin Asia. Is speaking. Oh my gosh, we have like 10 speaking engagement, but the one that is coming up to me right now is El Salvador. We're gonna be together there. I hope that you are there too with us this year. And
Argentina, I think, is coming up as well.
we're going to Argentina and you are gonna be speaking in November there. Those two are the ones that are coming up to my mind right now. Do you have any other one that you remember?
Yeah, there's a bunch, but
There is a bunch. But let's stick with Salvador in November. It's a great invitation for everybody to be in El Salvador, in La Cuna, La Meca, where so many underrepresented communities, government, education, minister, nonprofits, NGOs, great people is coming together to talk about Bitcoin and economic empowerment. And then Argentina, which is amazing, like one of the leaders on cryptocurrencies, Bitcoiners that are leading this in the first Bitcoin conference in November. So it's two great opportunities.
Love it. Well, thank you both for coming on. And for anybody listening, yeah, get over to paystand.org or paystand.com and get to know Jeremy and Alexandra, excuse me, a little bit better. And congratulations on everything that you've achieved on both the business side and on the philanthropic side of things. And thank you again for giving Caitlin the opportunity for this internship. It's been a pivotal moment, I'm sure, in her young adult life.
Thank you, Daniel, for what you do, for spreading the voice, for helping so many people, communities, leaders, companies to get to know more the work about Bitcoin. You and your family are an inspiration to us, and having Kaylan has been such a delight.
They often say you know somebody's kind of inner soul by how their kids turn out. And I would say, Daniel, we know each other a bit, but I have a pretty good sense on what your actual home life is and what your actual core values are, because your daughter is incredible. So much love to you. Keep doing your mission, buddy. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you both. Very kind words. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you, Daniel.